Hello, my name is Avont Thomas,
My name is Assil, Khalil.
and today we're going to be talking about the death penalty. Is the cost worth the effect? Let's find out.
The reason why the death penalty is so expensive is because of the trials, attorneys, and prosecutors' experts' security costs for incarceration. Death penalty cases cost more than ordinary cases because of all the lawyers, judges, and other personnel that will be putting more hours into preparing, trying, and reviewing the issues given that a life is at stake.
There have been multiple studies conducted on whether or not the death penalty can be used as an effective deterrent for crime. A February 2015 study by the Brennan Center for Justice examined several possible explanations for the dramatic drop in crime in the U.S. in the 1990s and 2000s. One of the theories studied among them was the death penalty, which reports found had no effect on the decline in crime. The authors explained empirical capital punishment is too infrequent to have a measurable effect on the crime drop. Criminologically, the existence and use of the death penalty may not even create the deterrent effect on potential offenders that lawmakers hoped when enacting such laws. The authors noted criminals do not consider the consequences of their actions, particularly when the consequence is rarely applied, as in the case of the death penalty. Much psychological and sociological research suggests that many criminal acts are crimes of passion and committed in a heated moment based only on immediate circumstances, and thus potential offenders may not consider or weigh longer term possibilities of punishment and capture, including the possibility of capital punishment. The Brennan Center's empirical analysis finds that there is no evidence that executions had an effect on crime in the 1990s or 2000s. Another study conducted was by Professor Michael Radlett and Tracy Lackock of the University of Colorado. They found that 88% of the nation's leading criminologists do not believe the death penalty is an effective deterrent to crime. The study, Do Executions Lower Homicide Rates? The Views of Leading Criminologists, published in the Journal of Criminal Law and Criminology, concluded that the empirical research conducted on the deterrence question fails to support the threat or use of the death penalty. A previous study in 1996 had come to similar conclusions.
Along with this, here are some statistical financial facts about the death penalty. Oklahoma capital cases cost on average 3.2 times more than non-capital cases. Defense costs for death penalty trials in Kansas averaged about $400,000 per case, compared to $100,000 per case when the death penalty was not sought. A study in California revealed that the cost of the death penalty in the state has been over $4 billion since 1978. Study considered pretrial and trial costs, costs of automatic appeals in state habeas corpus petitions, and cost of federal habeas corpus appeals, and cost of incarceration on death row. The most comprehensive study in the country found that the death penalty cost North Carolina $2.16 million per execution over the cost of sentencing murderers to life in prison. The majority of those costs occur at the trial level. In Texas, a death penalty case costs an average of $2.3 million, about 3 times the cost of imprisoning someone in a single cell at the highest security for 40 years. A 2010 poll by Lake Research Partners found that a clear majority of voters, 61%, would choose a punishment other than the death penalty for murder. A 2000 poll commissioned by DPIC found police chiefs ranked the death penalty last among ways to reduce violent crimes. The police chiefs also considered the death penalty the least efficient use of taxpayers' money. A report by the National Research Council titled Deterrence and the Death Penalty stated that studies claiming that the death penalty has a deterrent effect on murder rates are fundamentally flawed and should not be used when making policy decisions. Consistent with previous years, a 2016 FBI crime report showed that the South had the highest murder rates. The South accounts for over 80% of executions. The Northeast, which has less than 1% of all executions, had the lowest murder rate. According to a survey of the former and present presidents of the country's top academic criminological societies, 88% of these experts rejected the notion that the death penalty acts as a deterrent to murder.
What would be the benefits if the death penalty is abolished? More funding for healthcare programs, promotion of education, establishment of crime prevention programs. All these things could be accomplished by abolishing the death penalty. All that extra money would do wonders for our economy.
Prosecutors are currently pursuing the death penalty in 3 counties that made recent deep cuts to important public priorities and services. The cost of a death penalty trial would provide 1 month of essential services to 10,000 elderly Floridians, give nearly 500 more children access to Head Start, pay for 77 firefighter salaries, 71 teacher salaries, and pay the salaries of 115 MET and paramedics' salaries, and buy more than 40,000 new high school algebra textbooks.
Here are some of our personal thoughts on the death penalty. While punishing the most serious crimes in society may be appealing, the death penalty has serious shortcomings in practice. One reason is that death row inmates are not executed immediately. Because the Constitution requires special procedures in death penalty cases, sentencing someone to death can lengthen the legal process, which requires more resources from the prison system. Prison systems in many states, such as California, have found that death row inmates require much more funding than life imprisonment inmates. In addition to the financial cost, death penalty cases run the risk of the unquantifiable societal or moral cost of executing an innocent defendant. Personally, I think our system is flawed, as all human systems are, and people on death row have been proven innocent. That means that the state intended to kill an innocent person for something they did not do, which is a frightening thought. The death penalty comes with such a massive cost because the legal system has to be absolutely sure that the person's death is justified, so it spends a bunch of extra money to carry out this process. This issue comes down to money for me. Rule of law dictates justice, whether it be imprisonment, service hours, or if their crimes be too heinous. So you must then look at how much damage to society will come from their sentence. Currently, it costs more money to execute someone in the US than it does to imprison them for life. So it is a simple answer. It costs society less to just imprison them. However, if the process was more streamlined with less appeal courts and hiccups so that it costs less than lifetime incarceration, I would support the death penalty. It is a simple cost benefit. Seeking the death penalty means you know that they're guilty and almost always that the prosecution can prove it. So even if we don't kill him, he goes to jail for the rest of his life. He can no longer contribute to the economic or social prosperity of society. That individual has zero production value to society. He is now an anchor leeching off of society's money, the money that should be going back to our infrastructure, our schools, our roads, our people, our economy.
In my opinion, really do not understand you're supporting murderers, rapists, child molesters, and people of that sort. Look at this logically. Throw away your faith and your statistics. Would you rather live knowing you're paying so a murderer and etc. can live? Think about the families those people ruined, and yet you still want to support them by giving them a place to live. That's sickening. Personally, I'm for the death penalty only for economic reasons. If we put everyone on life in prison with no parole, prisons would be full and overcrowded as they already are. Some prisoners may prefer the death penalty rather than living in an overcrowded hellhole. We would be overwhelmed by the taxes as citizens. If a prisoner had a choice of life or death, then maybe.